Peace, family, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation, as to why there are low levels of literacy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. I am just so excited to welcome you all. Those of you who are new heads, I appreciate you, and also my old heads, thank you as well. And so I want you all to get ready for the topic at hand, which is environment is everything when it comes to literacy. All right. So that's what I'll be talking about on this episode. So make sure that you stay tuned and don't forget to grab your notebooks and something to write with, because I will be dropping some jewels for you. All right. Talk to you all in a minute. Peace. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation as to why there are low levels of literacy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together. I welcome you all again. I appreciate you all for joining me. Once again, for my old heads, thank you so much for rocking with me. All right. And for my new folks, I appreciate you as well for tuning in. Please make sure that you share this podcast. I am going to have it. You'll see it on YouTube as well. And also I'm on the Anchor platform, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts as well. So I'm about to get right into the topic at hand, which is environment is everything when it comes to developing that culture of literacy in our communities. All right. I've talked about this plenty of times on my other episodes, but I just what really made me want to drive this point home in terms of the environment is because of two amazing things that has been happening in the city of Cleveland. All right. So first, I'm going to talk about my very own reading camp. All right. I started an organization called ABC Read, and ABC Read is a nonprofit 501c3 that I started in 2014. And our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities here in Cleveland. And so the reason why I started ABC Read is because, first it started off with after my son's father and I, we enrolled him in a reading program when he was about 5 going on 6 years old. And now he's 16 years old. Okay. So that's how long it's been since we did that. So we enrolled him in this summer reading program through this prestigious university here in Cleveland. And the reason why was to get him that extra reading help and support that he needed. The reading program, it was not cheap. Okay. But again, it was about investment. And so we thought that this would be a great way to get him that extra help that he needed. And so when we enrolled him, it was like a 5-week, once a week program on the college campus. And so they got like this little workbook and a CD, and it was a young person who was leading the class. And basically it was just to put it blunt, it was like real talk. It was boring. All right. And his, the energy that he brought to the class, in my opinion, it was energy of like, okay, you know what I'm saying? This is what I got to do. Maybe he was a graduate student. That was my, that's what I'm thinking that he probably was, or, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it just seemed as though he was not really engaged. So that was one of the first takeaways. And then the other takeaway that I saw, that I noticed, is that even when they did have a read aloud, um, the books that, that I remember that was being read aloud, these were, these aren't books that were representative of majority of the classroom that was in this reading camp, okay, in this reading program. And so that was another thing that I remember. And what was interesting, though, my son, he remembered, because one of the days the particular person who was leading the class, he couldn't be there. So it was a sub, and she was very enthusiastic, engaging when she did the read aloud. She was moving around. And as a matter of fact, she had read the book Where the Wild Things Are. Okay. And so he remembered her. He actually remembered her. He enjoyed her. He was just so engaged in all of that. So those were a few takeaways, right? So I said, what? The person, he was not engaged. He seemed kind of just there. All right. The books, that was even read aloud, even though, again, my son, he, enjoyed that book. But I do remember, they weren't being exposed to books that were representative of, Black children, okay, or Black characters. All right. And the person who was reading aloud, he got all pumped and engaged when they were excited about the book that they were reading aloud. So after the program, I gave my feedback and I said, I really, thought it could have been, a little more could have been put into the program. It could have had, even some more activities, some different things, because if you're trying to get children into reading, you have to do different things that are engaging, that are enriching, that's going to help them want to read and also help them with their reading. Okay. So I gave my feedback. And then after that, because I was already reading aloud to my children and I already enjoyed doing that anyway. So that was another thing that was a plus for me. I loved reading aloud. I love to act, because you have to be able to put, bring those characters to life. And so that's what sparked the interest in me, where I said, you know what, maybe I could start, doing some read alouds in the community. So I remember going to my children's schools. All right. And I remember doing read alouds for the classroom and being told that, oh my gosh, you do a great job. You need to come back. So again, I'm like, all right, so the seeds are being sown. Like, okay, you know what, I need to really, what I'm saying, start doing this. And so to, sum it all up, in 2014, one of our board members, Rukaya, got to give a shout out to her. She told me about the farmers market that was going on in our neighborhood. And I went up there and I saw the activities that was going on. So the farmer, how farmers markets are, you got folks selling things, they got their baked goods, they got their, vegetables and fruits that they're growing. And they also have people there who are doing different activities. And so when I talked to the person who actually put the farmers market together, shout out to Miss Veronica Walton, then that's when I asked her, I was like, would I be able to do a program up here, where I can actually, read to the kids? And so she's like, yeah, and so that's where it all began. I started, providing, we out of my own pocket, out of, what I'm saying, donations, folks, giving money and, giving books. And so there it was. I started doing read alouds at the farmers market. So it's, again, started off very small. Then Ms. Veronica Walton, shout out to her again. She guided me on how to write a small grant. And lo and behold, oh, and at the process, I forgot to mention too, I had already started getting information about how to start a 501c3. So that was under works, did that, was able to do that. Got the 501c3, applied for our first grant. And then we were able to, in 2015, that's when we were able to get the first grant. So all of that being said, okay, this is what made me, realize and spark my interest in trying to help our community and focusing on the Black community when it comes to developing that culture of literacy. Because I already knew, it was definitely something that I, had knowledge of in terms of our Black youth were already struggling with reading. Hence, like I said, even with the reading camp that we had our son Musa in, at the time, you know, this camp was basically filled with majority Black children. All right. And so, and usually, though, what happens, what you tend to see, though, when you have folks who are dedicated into paying money, especially for something like that, these are the people who are trying to be proactive. These are the people typically who are like, you know what, I want to have my child ahead of the game. I want them to be prepared, especially with the reading, because we know reading is the foundation of every subject. And so so how this all ties into the subject of how environment is everything, this is one of the things in which our reading events that we've been having, which is our Bye Bye Summer Slide reading event here in the city of Cleveland. And the reading event is pretty much a literacy filled, chill environment, family safe space. All right. This, we've been having them at the libraries. We had one already at the Cleveland Heights Library, another one at the East Cleveland Library. Okay. And we have activities, games, and it's all family based. And we have a plethora of books to give away, books that majority represents Black people, Black history, Black culture, Black experiences. And this is done intentionally because we want our communities to understand that reading is a mindset. It starts with us looking at reading as empowerment. It starts with looking at reading as a way of being connected to your families, bonding, pleasure, relaxation, okay, getting information, freedom. These are the things that we want reading to be equated with. And that's why you have to have a very nurturing environment, a supportive environment, an environment filled with different activities, and understanding that reading is not just you sitting there with a physical copy of a book. Reading is involved when you are building your reading skills when you're doing puzzles. All right. You are helping to build your problem solving skills, your critical thinking skills. These are things that are happening when you are doing these different activities. And so this is the research, this is the things that I had looked up to find out, well, how can we, have this nice, enriching environment for our community that is free, by the way. And that's another key thing. It's free. Now, of course, when we say things are free, it's not free for real, because again, it's able to be free for our communities because of donations, people who have given plenty of books. We have people who have donated here in the city of Cleveland, outside of Ohio. Shout out to Philly, shout out to Dr. Swad. All right. Shout out to, a lot of our Philly family. Okay. A lot of people, we have donations from, someone who lives, my girl, sister, Catherine, Rima Reem. All right. She's in the South giving, you know what I'm saying? So people just cash apping us, sending us books, sending us donations, sending us love, because they want to see this being a success. All right. So again, like I said, yeah, it's free in terms of, yes, you don't have to pay money to come to the event. However, we're able to get donations. We were also afforded a grant. We had the Neighborhood Connections grant. Shout out to them. They've been, we've been able to successfully get grants from them pretty consistently. Also, our biggest grant award that we received was from the Black Futures Fund, which was created under the Cleveland Foundation. All right. So, big props to these people who have, seen what it is that we're doing, realizing that our mission is something that's very important, especially too, you got, these statistics where you have high illiteracy rates here in Cleveland. Some neighborhoods is like high as 90%, talking about functionally illiterate or illiterate, not able to really, read past a second or third grade level, barely making it in terms of reading. And so this is why our organization is needed. And this is why we have these reading events. And this is why I said with the reading events, the environment has to be something that is positive, something that's inviting, warm, welcoming. There's another event that was going on as well. Shout out to Literacy Innovations, Miss Ebony Donnelly. She had her literacy game night. All right, so she just had a room filled with games where our families can come together. She also provided food. She also gave away prizes. I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal. So here it is. I just gave you all two events happening that, has happened in the city of Cleveland. Ours is still going on, the ABC Read Bye Bye Summer Slide event. All right, our next one is June 25th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Cleveland Heights Library. And again, she and I both realize that you have to have a nice, chill, cool, fun, engaging environment. And this is something that you don't have to always go outside of your home to have. And that's what I wanted to talk about. We can create these environments in our homes. We can make sure that we are having a multitude of books for our families, for our children, for ourselves as adults. These are things in which we have to make sure that we are creating. We cannot equate reading with stress. I wanted to mention something about, and this is something that, and I've talked about this before. I've mentioned her before. She is my virtual mentor. She don't know it, but Dr. Joy DeGruy, yes. She has written a book called The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And it's about talking about how Black people, we have endured the horrors of slavery, but how to heal from it. And she'll tell you in a minute. Her book is focused on healing. But of course, she has to talk about why we are doing the things that we do, why we are carrying on this generational trauma that we continue to carry in the Black community. Because it stems from, of course, really, honestly, before the slave plantation, the walk to, the treacherous march to the holding cells, or the slave, some people call them the slave castles, before they actually aborted those horrible slave ships. Okay, so the trauma happened the moment you get snatched, that's where the trauma begins, right? Just imagine, God forbid, you have to deal with a child being taken. Right there, not only is the child experiencing the trauma, those parents are experiencing trauma, right? So this is why she wrote this book, because she understood that when you have trauma, when you got all of this, sickness happening to you, then what happens is you wind up, especially when you see there's no way out of it at that particular time, then you start to do things to adapt to the trauma. And so one of the things in which that I want to relate to in terms of when it comes to reading or education-based things, one of the negative things that we have to get rid of out of the Black community is the way in which we are educating our children and trying to tell them that they have to learn, or they have to read, or they have to do this assignment. We have to stop with the notion of, if you don't do this, I'm gonna beat you. Wait till I get home. Do I need to come up to that school and embarrass you? Or you coming up there with an actual belt or some type of strap in your hand, or a brush in your hand, ready to go off on your child? These are things in which we brought from being totally traumatized, again, from the slave ships, before the walk to the slave ships, to the slave plantation, all of that, but more so the slave plantation. And the reason why is because, well, Guess what? Our ancestors, that's how they were able to produce. That's why they were able to pick the cotton, the tobacco, clean, feed those slave masters' babies, anything you name it that they had to do to take care of that death camp. It was done through trauma. It was somebody forcing them and saying, hey, look, if you don't get this done, I'm gonna beat you. Imagine you sitting up there, you doing your work and somebody standing over you with a rifle. They got a gun ready to blow your head off the moment you start slacking. You hear the go, or you hear the somebody getting whipped, somebody getting yelled at, somebody getting berated. Or you see, you see a little girl about to go get pulled in the back to get raped from some ignorant, nasty white racists. These are the things in which our ancestors, they endured, they suffered through. But since they were not able to be free, and trust and believe, our ancestors did try to run away. They were trying everything that they could to run away, sabotage the tools, poison the food, doing whatever it was that they could to get away from that hellhole called that peculiar institution of slavery. But again, like I said, all the while though, our ancestors were dealing with that. Of course, they were picking up and those habits in terms of all of those things that they were being taught, all of those things that were being done to them, they were doing it to their own children. They were doing things like, beating, after a while, after all of that stuff that was being done to our ancestors. And so as time goes on, how was our ancestors dealing with their own children when it came to taking care of business? When it came to even when you had a situation where you had maybe a child who wound up sneaking off and started learning how to read. And then as a matter of fact, there's a part in the episode of Roots where Kizzy, where she started showing her mother that she had learned how to read and she was learning letters. What did her mother do? Instinctively, because she's thinking about her very survival. She's thinking about the fact that, look, I know they will kill you. They will hurt you. They will beat you if they see you learning those letters. So she went off on her. Don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever let me see you trying to learn and read again. Now, bring it forward to when slavery was supposedly over. And then when our ancestors were able to learn to read and learn to write and all of those types of things, still that same attitude, that same spirit of control, that force, that drive. What? You can't read that? What's your problem? What's wrong with you? We went over that 50 million times, going off. And I'm not talking about you reminding your child, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? You have to focus. It's a difference. You can tell your child, yes, you need to focus. You need to sit down and handle this business. And you set up boundaries. You're like, hey, look, I have standards here. These are things in which you have to take care of. Of course, we understand we do that, but I'm talking about the actual going off. I'm talking about the actual, I'm going to beat you down because you can't even read that. And do you understand what happens is now their stress levels are increasing. So what happens is as the cortisol levels, that's that level that we have in our bodies that regulates our stress. That's that thing that's inside of us that, so if we are dealing with some type of stress, either they call it the fight or flight. So either you're going to fight back or you're going to run away, or, you're going to stop whatever it is that you're doing. You can't really think and process in a clear way. And so that's why I said I wanted to address this issue in hopes that you all can understand, so that you can start being intentional about removing any type of unnecessary stress when it comes to developing that culture of literacy in your homes. And the ways in which we can do that are very simple. And I've talked about this before, making sure that we create these cozy environments in our homes for reading. Making sure that when we are reading books to our children, that we're doing it in a way that it is warm and inviting. Making sure that we're being consistent with reading to our children. Getting books that are empowering for our children, books that represent Black characters, books that where our children can learn about our history and our culture and our experiences in a good way. These are things in which we can actually do right now for our families, for our communities, so that we can stop always thinking that we're going to beat or we're going to force our children into being able to read. That's not going to happen. We have to make sure that we are letting them know by example as well, reading in front of them, modeling those reading behaviors that we want them to inculcate, that we want them to be able to have. Because I'm telling you now, when you look at other communities, and I'm going to, being more specific, especially too, when you see, a lot of folks in white communities, these are things in which that's what's happening. All right. They are making sure that they're giving their children these enriching experiences and nice environments so that the children want to read. Allowing our children to be able to choose the different books that they want, of course, under our guidance, but allowing them to be able to be empowered and saying, okay, yeah, these are the books that I want to read. And if your child, and please, if your child, say your child is 12 and they want to read a book that quote unquote is for a third grader, please allow them to do that. Don't say things to them like, you sure you want that? That's that. You too big for that book. Here, you read this one. No, that's the book that they chose. For whatever reason, that book right there, that book interests them. So allow them to be able to choose the books that they are interested in. And we have to get out of that mindset of, being worried about what other people, how they're going to view us, because that's a big part of too. And again, this is real reading talk. That's a big part of, why Black folks would go off. We would go off on our kids, right? Think about it. When you out in public, and the moment, say you at the grocery store, you giving them the threatening speech before you even leave the house. You giving them the threatening speech in the car ride there, and then before they get into the store. Now, of course, a kid being a kid, yeah, they're gonna try to, they're gonna touch something, or they're gonna try to, run a little bit. You don't have to go off though. And the reason why we're doing that is because we worried about what somebody else, how they view us, how they looking at us. Again, this, of course, we understand. We teach our children to not just run amok, go all over the place, and just not care about, the items that are in the store and all of that type of stuff, or other people who are, they're shopping. And, yes, we teach them to be self-aware. We teach them to be conscious of the things that's around them. However, if they are just simply trying to look at something, or say if they even touch something, or whatever the case may be, you're watching them, you know what I'm saying? They're right there with you. You're letting them know, oh, okay. Oh, wow. You see that? Oh, wow. Let's check. Let's look at that. Let's explore that. Let's see how that works. Now, what you're doing is you're developing in their minds to be inquisitive. Okay. To be little investigators. Use those types of terminology for them. Tell them that, yeah, oh, I see you being a little investigator, huh? You're trying to see how that gadget works. Then you start using, other vocabulary words, right, to describe what it is that you're talking about. So now you're building their vocabulary bank. You're telling them that now they're little investigators, they're explorers, they're scientists. So now you're putting all of that in their minds. It's in their subconscious. And again, what are you doing? You're creating that kind of positive environment when it comes to literacy for them. So now they don't have to feel stressed and feel like, oh man, oh my God, I better not touch this. Oh man. So and you know what happens when you do that to them? You put in them that timidness, you put in them self-doubt. Now they're afraid to take calculated risks. How do I know all this stuff so well? Because I've done that. I've experienced that growing up, and I've done that with my children. Where did I get that from, though? I got that from, like I just said, that was done to me. I got that from my parents. Where did my parents get that from? They got that from their parents. And we can go on and on and on, link back. And where did I tell you it came from? The slave plantation. The high stress, inhumane environment that our ancestors endured. That's where it came from. And so just like with anything negative, how do you undo it? You do the opposite. That's how you undo it. Simple as that, y'all. Seriously, it ain't rocket science. If you know that you are yelling and berating your child and going off and again, all of this is done though, as we've been taught, out of love, right? I'm beating you because I love you. I'm going off on you. I'm embarrassing you in the classroom because I love you. Really? So now we putting some other seeds in there, right? So now we equating love with beatings and trauma. Are we not? I'm sorry. Sounds like that to me. But again, I can talk about this because I've lived this experience. This is something that I know. This is something that I've done. This is something that's been done to me. And this is something that I know that does not work. And this is something that I know we got to stop immediately. So again, with all of that being said, this episode was entitled Environment is Everything. So the environment, like I told you, it could be at home, it could be at the store, whatever environment that we are in. Try to use it as a learning opportunity, as a nurturing opportunity, as a supportive opportunity, as an opportunity for our children, and understand that we want what's best for you, and we want you to think for yourselves. We don't want you to feel like you are being controlled and that you have to link stress to reading, to learning, to empowerment, to education. Yes, we all get stressed, but when you're getting stressed, you want it to be a lot of the stress to be due to things that are good, right? That's just like, for example, when you're working out, you're putting stress on your body, right? All right, you lifting those weights, you're doing that stress, but guess what? It's a good stress. It's a good stress. And that's all right. Just like our brains, they have to get stretched, right? All right. That's why it's good when our children have challenging activities. That's why it's good when we're doing puzzles. It's stretching their brains. That's why it's good to have riddles, stretching their brains. All right. It's good to be able to do different activities that's going to stretch their brains so they understand that, yes, this mass that we have in here, man, we have the ability and the power to put whatever it is that we can that's going to make us be our best selves. We got the power to do that. We do. So let's make sure that we use that power that we have for good. We have to stop creating stressful environments that's not conducive to our children being the great readers that they can become. All right, you all. I hope that you all enjoyed this podcast. And I hope, again, like I always say, I hope you gain much benefit. I truly do. And make sure that you inculcate that you put into um, your your regimen of 30 minutes of reading every single day. All right. Thank you all for listening. My name is Miss Sasha, and this has been Real Reading Talk. Peace. All right, everyone. I hope that you all, again, enjoyed that episode. And I hope that you were able to get some jewels and nuggets to take away. And of course, it's recorded, so you can always go back to listen again. A little couple of housekeeping things I wanted to mention. I am a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor. The name of my reading tutoring business is ABC Learn Tutoring. So if you're looking for someone to help your baby with their comprehension, with their sight words, with their reading fluency, or if you're just trying to get them prepared for kindergarten, and so they can be ahead of the game when it comes to reading, please go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. Click on that free reading assessment today. And like I mentioned during the podcast, I am the founder and executive director of ABC Read, and our mission is to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. Right now in Cleveland, we have our Bye Bye Summer Slide reading camp. We have 3 more sessions left. Please go to abcread.org, click on that link so that you can sign your child up from ages 5 on up. All right. We have some slots available. Okay. So people have been signing up, and then sometimes, they haven't been able to show up. However, I still have some other slots available. So please make sure you check us out, abcread.org. And yes, we are a 501c3 organization, tax exempt. So we accept your gracious donations. And of course, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom, where you can get a multitude of read alouds that your child, as well as adults, can enjoy together, all right? So we can keep putting and pushing that literacy, that culture of literacy in our homes. And I want to share with you all the book that I've been reading. The book that I'm currently reading is The 5 Love Languages, all right, written by Gary Chapman. That is an old book. All right, but it's still relevant today. A lot of folks have been referencing that book, talking about the different 5 primary love languages. And of course, I'm quite sure people could say, well, there are more other love languages they want to add, but these are the ones typically that a lot of people reference. So please check out that book as well. And I would like to leave you all with this quote by Maya Angelou. All right. It goes in line with the whole how we are creating a positive environment and how we want to make sure that everyone is feeling good and feeling warm and welcome. Okay. When we're nurturing that culture of literacy and that culture of learning in our homes. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. All right. And I hope that I made you all feel welcome and that you feel empowered as well. You've tuned into another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your host, Miss Sasha. And please remember to like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. And make sure you give my podcast some great ratings on Spotify as well. All right. You all take care. Talk to you next time. Peace.